I mean, absolutely. I think that Republicans should be cognizant that 2018 could not go their way. And you look at how President Trump's strategy increasingly seems to be that he wants to pick fights with the GOP Congress, and he wants to push the blame for not getting anything done on the GOP Congress. And right now, that's a pretty decent strategy for him because he has higher approval rating than Congress. But in the long term, it's certainly not going to help Republicans get elected.
But Governor, talk about the dynamics here. The dynamics of a party that is afraid to back its president and a president who doesn't fall in line with the party. How does that play out?
Well, I think it plays out poorly for the president. If you're a Republican, what really, to me, was the red line, if I was a Republican congressman or a senator, is when the president saluted and pushed hard to get the House to pass their version of the health care bill, and then 2 weeks later said it was mean. So everyone who voted for it has to worry about an opponent saying, the President of the United States said you voted for a mean bill that hurt people. You know, you can't do that. You've got to be consistent. You've got to be supportive. And look, when it comes to impeachment, and again, it's way premature to talk about that, but the only way you impeach a sitting president, in my judgment, is in a bipartisan fashion. I mean, you can't convict him in the Senate without bipartisan votes, but even in the House, it's got to be bipartisan. When President Nixon was impeached, it was through a bipartisan vote. You saw when President Clinton was impeached, there were almost no Democratic votes in the House, and it didn't make it in the Senate. It's not good for the country to even talk about impeachment unless leaders from both parties are saying it's an appropriate issue to take.
All right, well then let's not talk about impeachment further. We're going to talk instead about the economy, at least, because we've heard the president this week taking credit for the economy, this big Wall Street surge, record high numbers. How much can he really do that? Is it at all risky for him to do that? And doesn't a good economy mean good poll numbers, though not for President Trump?
Well, I think that our obsession with President Trump's approval rating isn't that much of a concern anymore, actually, just because he didn't have that high of one and he still ended up getting elected. And I just think that this is a president who really defies the normal, kind of approval rating standard. He, though, has to show some actual progress and can't just be talking about these one-off, getting a factory to save some jobs in Indiana. He actually needs to have real sustained growth. And that's why his immigration bill is so counter to actually raising the GDP that it's surprising just how often this administration does seem to want to defy economic common sense.
Yeah. On Thursday, Ed, the president held a campaign-style rally in West Virginia, a state that he won big time. He touched on a few familiar themes. Here's a piece of that.
The Russia story is a total fabrication. It's just an excuse for the greatest loss in the history of American politics. That's all it is. We didn't win because of Russia. We won because of you.
So he is clearly playing to his base there, Governor, and yet the poll numbers are tanking. How do you explain the disconnect? And when he talks about that, the greatest loss in the history, we have to remember that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. What is he talking about?
Well, I couldn't figure out. Let me just digress for a second. He said earlier in the week that he had in a tape there was the discussion about New Hampshire. He said that he carried New Hampshire. He didn't carry New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton carried New Hampshire. I don't understand where. I guess these are all alternative facts, but it's very difficult for the president. But he figures as long as he holds his base, he's got that fear factor that you talked about, Alex. You're a congressman, and you heard Charlie Dent say, if you go against the president, well, there are people in the base who won't forgive you. So that's the linchpin that holds most of the Republicans in check. But as that number starts to peel off, as he starts to lose almost every independent, as he starts to lose a few people in the base, I was interested in when he said the line about Hillary Clinton, let's look at her emails. I thought that would get a far bigger response than it did, even from that partisan West Virginia crowd. I think those lines are starting to wear thin, even with his base. Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Elise? I mean, the people are just tired of looking back at, 9 months ago, and we just want to look forward. Do you think that is growing weary within his base, too, the attack on Hillary Clinton and her emails?
Well, I think Hillary Clinton is always going to be a popular target for Republicans. But at a certain point, President Trump has to start taking responsibility and ownership of the country. And, you look at how President Obama frequently chastised President Bush for his first couple of years in office, but even his base got sick of that. And I think that the same is going to be true for Donald Trump.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.